the West, it still is very much wide open, especially when we're talking about, once again, probably 6 through 8 for now. I think 9 and 10
Mhm.
are kind of solidified with the Warriors and the Lakers, but 6 through 8 just constantly just keeps changing and flip flopping even late in this game. And as we've spoken about, the Clippers kind of been trying to figure out their footing. Like, it's been said time and time again, they don't have an identity, and that's not my words. That's the team's words. So it is interesting, but we did say that we were going to go ahead and talk about how this may have implications for other teams in the Western Conference. And two of those teams, Suns and Pelicans, last night,
Mhm.
Devin Booker absolutely torched New Orleans in the
He
first half,
did.
37 points, his third straight 50-point game versus the Pelicans. He had 52, 52, 58. He actually has 8 of the 14 50-point games in Suns history. So Devin Booker is putting up crazy numbers. But when we talk about the Suns specifically, obviously they've been flip-flopping, play in, playoffs, play in, playoffs, I feel like for the past 2.5 months. But the Pelicans not looking so hot despite their hot start and their hot trajectory, it looked like. The Pelicans are kind of falling apart, and that just may be what the Suns need to kind of finagle their way into that last playoff spot.
Yeah, I'm not quite there on the Pelicans. They're completely falling apart. We'll get into that in a second, but
Okay.
for sure, Booker has their number. I mean, he went full
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark last night, supernova. He was shooting the lights out. Like you were giving me Caitlin Clark updates, and I'm watching Booker just
Yeah.
drain three after three after three. I think it's interesting that KD and Booker have been pretty consistently fantastic this season.
Right.
But I do wonder if that's enough for them because they have some issues, right? I mean, like it was supposed to be a big three. It has not been. And Devin and Bradley Beal gets, a little bit of a pass because new team, right? He leaves Washington after being an all-star for a long time, comes to a new team where he's the third option. He was going to be the third option if even if he wasn't hurt, but he hasn't been healthy all season. He hasn't really looked uh, anything like the Bradley Beal that we've come to know. And last night, yeah, Booker was cooking, but Brad Beal was invisible. I mean, he was like basically not a part of the offense last night. So I just wonder if they have enough to do anything in the Western Conference when they haven't been consistent all season long, Ash. I mean, like, I look at it this way. Okay, they beat the Pelicans last night in New Orleans, right? Good win
Right.
for them. But previously, they just lost to OKC without SGA. Before that, they beat the Nuggets, but the Nuggets didn't have Jamal Murray. Okay, they still beat the Nuggets, though. The game before that, they lost to San Antonio without Wemby. I mean, like, this team can lose to anybody, and I guess they can beat anybody. So I'm just like, I'm not sold on the Suns.
I mean, you speak about Bradley Beal, 13 points from him, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, almost a double double. He shot 62% from the field, 75% from the three. But to your point, numbers don't always tell the full story,
Yeah,
right? This wasn't a
they didn't.
full factor in the win. Even taking away, Bradley, even taking away Devin Booker and his just crazy 52-point game, it seems like a lot of the times it's Booker, KD, and Bradley's like the weird middle child trying to figure out like where he
Yeah.
belongs, how he can get attention. Hey, look at me, I'm here too. And I don't know if that's in part because this big three, if you will, has always in some way, shape, or form not been able to play together. And that is then by byproduct affecting everyone knowing their roles. And KD and Booker do have a year on Bradley Beal in terms of chemistry. But it is interesting because I do think that although Grayson Allen has his games, last night only had
That's your
11. You
guy.
can't expect, right, my guy, Grayson Allen, you can't expect him to have like these astronomical games that he's had throughout the season to kind of save you in a series. The reason you traded for Bradley Beal is because he was supposed to be your additional factor with Booker and Kevin Durant. And I wonder exactly how they're going to go ahead and combat that because the regular season is over. The time to figure that out is now over. Now it's, one and done if you're in the play in and, 4 chances if you're in a playoff series. I just don't know if they figured it out yet.
Yeah, I don't think that they have. I mean, this was always going to take some time and be in an adjustment period, but Booker and Durant are two huge high usage rate players, right?
Right.
Previously, Brad Beal was one of those players too because he played in Washington and he was the guy. Now he comes to Phoenix and he's like, "Oh, I'm not the guy. I'm not even the second guy. I'm the third guy." but maybe not on some nights, because some nights Grayson Allen, your guy, has it going, and like now all of a sudden he's the fourth guy. But wait a minute, some nights he's not even the fourth guy, because then like Nurk could have a good game, and
Right.
like now he's the fifth guy. And those numbers that you rattled off last night, when you look at his stat line, you're like, that's an okay stat line. I'm telling you, he was invisible until the fourth quarter. He started padding the stats when the Pelicans started making a run. The Pels were down big. They cut it
Yeah.
to single digits in the fourth quarter, which I want to get to in a second. And then all of a sudden, the Suns had to snap out of it again, and Bradley Beal was part of that. But that's another reason why I'm not really sold on the Suns, right? Because this season, post All-Star break, the offense has been pretty good. Ninth in offensive rating. The defense has not been good.
Consistent. Yeah.
The defense has been 20th in defensive rating post All-Star break. And here's the other problem, and I mentioned it, a million times, but it came up again last night. They were up again big. They go into the fourth quarter, and we're all on our text chain going, uh-oh, what if the Pels make a little run? And they did. And this has been a consistent problem for the Suns all season. Ash, they are dead last in net rating in the fourth quarter, not by a little bit, by an astronomical amount, more than double now the next worst team in the NBA in the fourth quarter. So that's a significant problem for me. And here's another reason why I like the Pels moving better moving forward. 7 games left for the Suns.
Right.
By far the hardest strength of schedule in the NBA remaining.
Very true.
They're a game behind the Pelicans. Pelicans could potentially get Brandon Ingram back next week, and they've got not that difficult a schedule remaining. So for me, I think the Pelicans are deeper. I think they've been more consistent all season. They're about to get one of their main guys back. I'll take the Pelicans all day long going forward.
I mean, we're speaking about the Pelicans right now, they're currently 6th in the Western Conference. They were 5th, but now sitting at 5th place are the Dallas Mavericks, who we spoke about yesterday, who have just been absolutely surging. 7 wins in a row so far. They have seemed to, combat everyone's narrative that Luka and Kyrie cannot figure out how to play together. And this team was just kind of constructed as a way to keep Luka happy and his championship dreams alive. Now, whether or not you're buying full stock into the Dallas Mavericks, I'm somebody looking at the way that the West is kind of falling and formulating, if you will. OKC, obviously, they're sitting at the top right now. Denver, I think most of us have Denver, making to the Western Conference Finals. But I think that their opponent, I know Bill was not a full-blown believer. He wasn't willing to jump on the train with me yesterday. But now that we know about the worries of Kawhi Leonard and his knee with the Clippers, the Pelicans, although they are getting BI back, they come a little shaky. You mentioned all the issues with the Phoenix Suns right now. Minnesota without Karl Anthony Towns. Also, they do, have some weird decision making late in the game. OKC, phenomenal, very young, but is a strong. Dallas could very much be the opponent that the Nuggets face in the Western Conference Finals. I know Bill was not buying it, but looking at the way this conference is constructed so far, and it's starting to look, I mean, are you leaning more my side or Bill's side now?
I've been singing the praises of the Mavs over this 12-game stretch. I mean, they've won 11 straight. Producer Aaron brings up a really interesting point. Somehow the Mavs are underdogs tonight at Golden State, which
Chase Center is a very hard place to play. I can understand that.
But the Mavs are jamming right now. I mean, like over this 12-game stretch,
Golden State won 4 in a row so far, though, at home.
Fair enough. They're
at home tonight, rather.
They have looked better, and I think part of that was motivated by the Houston Rockets, who are nipping at their heels. But the Mavericks, nobody's playing better than in the NBA right now than the Dallas Mavericks. They're fourth in offense and fourth in defense over that 12-game stretch. They've been pummeling teams offensively, and then, as I've mentioned many times, but I think it's worth repeating, the defensive component is surprising, but I also think sustainable, because Jason Kidd looked at what was happening with the team and reinserted Daniel Gafford as the starting center and put Derek Jones Jr. into the starting lineup. And then you've got Lively and Kleba coming off the bench. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, we can throw some different looks at you defensively, and we've got some rim protection here. And oh yeah, Derek Jones Jr. is an awesome on-ball defender. And it kind of papers over some of the problems that you have with Kyrie and Luka defensively. So, I mean, look, to your point, could they potentially make it to the conference finals depending on the path that they have in front of them? Yes, I do. And right now, I think the bigger thing is
make sure you vocalize that to Bill tomorrow.
I vocalized it to him all day on the show yesterday, and then last night when we were on HQ, and he's still not sold on Luka and Kyrie. He's got a Kyrie thing, this. But they're 2 games back of the Clippers, and
Yeah.
Kawhi just went back to LA for a knee injury.
Yeah.
If I'm the Clippers, I'm sweating this. I know there's only 7 games left, but I'm sweating it.
You're also sweating it because, you're having the issues, James Harden's kind of showing his James Harden colors. It's about that time.
Yep,
It's like the story of Cinderella where the carriage is starting to turn back to a pumpkin at midnight. James Harden's starting to turn back into James Harden around this time. Paul George, doing what Paul George does, but you really need Kawhi to go ahead and compete
absolutely.
with this talent in this Western Conference, especially with the way that the Mavericks are playing. But before we move on to Donovan Mitchell, Pelicans, Sun, Kings right now, I feel like are
Mhm.
probably the most interesting kind of
Yes.
area of this Western Conference. So, who do you feel is more likely to get out or fall in to the play-in out of those 3 teams?
This is a preview of I have to do Spotlight after we record this on CBS Sports Network, and this is the question that they are asking me after this. So it's good warm up. It's good practice.
Okay, good job.
Um,
Here we go.
I no, it's you. You led me right into it. I'm still on the Pelicans. I think that the
To
Suns
fall
have been
into
way
the
too.
play-in, or they're gonna
No,
remain
no,
in the
no, no.
playoffs?
I'm keeping the Pelicans in the 6th seed and having
Okay.
the Suns and the Kings in the play-in, just because, as I mentioned, the Pelicans this season, until like a week or 2 ago, they were top 10 in offense and defense. Brandon Ingram leaves, the offense falls into 12th. They're 3-3 without Brandon Ingram, but obviously they need his offensive punch. They've still been a really, really good defensive team, and that's sort of been their bread and butter. Whereas with the Suns, they've been up and down all season. I mentioned it. I mean, like, yeah, they go ahead and they beat the Pels at home last night. The Pels, for some reason, have been like an oddly not good team in New
Yeah.
Orleans. It's kind of strange. They've been better on the road, but they're just so inconsistent. They could win a game like that and then lose to the Spurs without Wemby. So I'm not sold on the Suns. And then the Kings are cooked with no Herter and no Monk. They're cooked. You might as well make your Cancun plans now because your season is not long for this world. So yeah, I'm on the Pelicans, and the other 2 teams are going to be in the play-in.